Every 4 years, the world comes together to cheer on athletes from their country. The Summer Olympics has some sports that are just the most amazing ones to watch, but which one is the greatest? That's what we're going to debate today on The GOAT. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The GOAT, the show where we debate the biggest questions in sports and let you pick the winner. I am your host, Jeff Lambert. I am joined today right next to me here by the man, the myth, the legend, Daniel Duran. Dan, how are we doing today?
Man, I'm pretty good. Excited that we're at least midweek. Weekend's almost here. So, man, how you doing?
I'm doing good. We had a tough week. To all the people that have supported us through the first two shows. Hey, sometimes stuff comes up. We do the best we can to make sure we're going to stay on a regular publishing schedule. But it was tough. I had a kid who was sick this weekend. We had Father's Day, and we're both fathers. Dan, you had a wedding anniversary, right?
Bro, I had my wedding day celebration. So, my wife's Indian, so we had like 10 weddings. But this was the anniversary of our big wedding, the big, white gown, tux, everything. So that, it was a big day. So we had a late night. First time we went on a date in a long time, especially with the pandemic and everything. So it was really nice. Stuffed our faces with food and we went out and got dessert. It was awesome, man. But I feel you as far as things being busy. I had that. We had fathers trying to figure out my kids' summer school, everything program going on. I got the infant still growing, so things have been real hectic.
Yeah. And so, I guess back to the fans, look, we're going to do the best we can to keep a schedule, but, realize that we are tired dads. We got kids that depend on us. We have wives that depend on us. And, we're just doing the best we can. But thanks for sticking with us. So let's get into it. Dan, go over the format of the show for us, for anybody that's maybe tuning in for the first time.
All right. If you're tuning in for the first time, we're going to be debating GOAT questions, greatest of all time. This is how the format works. We flip a coin and we take turns presenting arguments that each of us gets a chance to add counterpoints to weaken their opponent's argument. Then we ask you, the fans, who won the debate. This is a way that we can control the chaos of our 30 years of debating.
Yes, and it's worked so far pretty nicely, I think, and we've had people join in to vote. And with that said, I want to take this opportunity to announce the winner of last week's episode. We were debating the worst name in professional sports, the worst team name in professional sports, and we had the Washington football team versus the Utah Jazz. So, with that said, the winner, based on your votes from last episode, is... Oh no, wrong one. There we go. Ta-da! The Utah Jazz. So 78% of you voted for that option. I want to thank you all for supporting my side of the debate. It certainly makes me feel great because now, Dan, we're 1-1, 2 episodes in. So we are tied, baby, moving forward.
We are tied. That was a good debate, Jeff. I tip my hat off to you. The Jazz have no business being in Utah. They have absolutely nothing to do. And you're right. Maybe not right, but right. The people spoke, so I can't even really say you're wrong. The people spoke. What's awesome is that we had some fans comment on this show. We have an anonymous Google user saying, I got to go with the basketball team who has failed to correct the team name. Nothing about Utah screams Jazz to me. He's right. I think Mormons, I think Mitt Romney, but you don't think Jazz. Andrew from Facebook says, the Knickerbockers have those 1800 shorts. The Clippers are a hair-cutting tool, which is not why the Clippers are named the Clippers, by the way, Andrew, but we'll let you get away with that. And then the Blues. If you don't like the Jazz, you have to not like the Blues. Well, he didn't really give us nay or yay, but it's okay. The next one is Eric. Eric, I like you, bro. This is from Instagram. This is my man right here. He says the right answer, by far, is the Washington football team. Well, at least I know I had one vote. See, we rely on your voting for each episode, so follow us on social media to get to the link to do so. Without you, this descends to chaos. It's going to be what he said versus what he said, and with you guys, we know who won. So thanks for voting. For future episodes, you can suggest topics by following us on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube at Goat Sports Pod, or by emailing us at goatpodcast@hotmail.com. I'm going to mention it every time. My co-host here chose Hotmail. goatpodcast@hotmail.com.
Don't ever let the classics die, Dan. Come on. The email service, the myth, the legend, Hotmail.
You know,
That's what it's all
while
about.
they're classics, there's a reason why we don't hear classics on the radio anymore unless you're tuning into a classic station. Just saying.
I mean, it's a fair point, but I also think maybe it's just me getting older and grumpy, but gosh darn it, kids these days, they don't respect the classics like we did, right?
You're right.
So maybe this is a correction that we're going to bring about. We should start a radio station
should.
after this, Dan. We're going to get this podcast up. We're going to start a classic radio station. We're going to bring back MTV, but call it like JDTV. We'll work on the name, but we're gonna bring the classics back, and the kids are going to support it. So be ready, kids. Here it comes. So, folks, overall, thank you so much for the submissions, for the votes. Leave us some comments, whether it's on social media or in the voting, where you can leave in the poll. We'll feature you. We want to hear from you. We want to have those conversations. We love the communication that we have with you. Overall, before we get into our topic for today, we're going to go to the feature that allows us to make a little bit of money from doing this show, and that's called Goat Picks. Basically, how this works is we recommend products to you that we use on a daily basis, and you help us and support us by taking a look and possibly purchasing these products that we recommend to you, and we get a commission for everyone that's sold. So, hey, if you have a minute, take a look. We included links in the show notes so you can check out these products. So let's just briefly go over what we're recommending. Dan, let's start with you. What is your GOAT pick for this month?
My GOAT pick is Nutrition Supercell Superfood. For those tuning in to YouTube, this is what it looks like. Oh, just kidding. Jeff is putting it out on the screen for you. I don't even have to show it to you. But I have it here. So I am not just, talking smoke here. I actually take this stuff. It's awesome for thyroid support, detox, cleansing, boosting immunity, joint support, anti-aging. If you're getting a little up there, I'm not old, but I'm not young. I'm gonna be 38 this year, and sometimes I don't get my veggies. I don't eat properly. So this is just gonna help me maintain equilibrium, stay as healthy as possible. As I've mentioned before, I'm a big health freak. I love working out, and this is a good way to make sure I stay on top of my game. So here it is. It's Nutrition Supercell Superfood. We're going to have a link for you guys to click on. Definitely click on it, especially if you're just not feeling so well and you want to feel better.
Absolutely. Good choice, Dan. I actually have to buy some myself so I can try this out because I'm taking your advice for what I need to put in my body because the rest of it's not too good. So I need to improve in that area. As you can see, for those of you joining in for the video portion of this, Dad's got to work on the dad bod. But anyways, for my GOAT pick for this month, it's as it's been for the first two episodes, the Lark water bottle. Now, what is the Lark water bottle, you ask? Well, basically, if you live in an area where you are worried about the quality of the water that you're drinking, this water bottle helps you solve that problem because all you have to do is go to any tap water source, fill it up, and the Lark bottle is able to disinfect your water in less than 30 seconds. And it does require a charge, so you do have to plug it in like every 3 or 4 days, but it lasts you quite a long time through several refills. I've gone up to, I think, 25 before needing a refill. And I carry it with me, and it allows me, because I live in an urban area, to be able to just make sure that what I'm drinking is safe and healthy. And so that's important to me. The Lark bottle's the best way I've found to be able to do that. And you're also being able to help with environmental causes. You're not buying a plastic water bottle every time you need clean water and throwing it out and then adding to the Pacific garbage patch that we see all over the news that seems to get bigger and bigger every day, month, and year. So the Lark water bottle can help you cut back and be able to be more green-minded, as well as getting that clean water to help you live a healthier life. So overall, like Dan said, we'll include links in the show notes for both of these. Take a look at them, click on the links. If you like them, buy them, and we get a little cha-ching going to the podcast. And this money isn't going to buying Daniel more T-shirts, nor me more Chick-fil-A. The money goes right back into the podcast. So we are using the money that you invest into us to be able to upgrade the equipment, get better lighting, invest in maybe some merchandise that you can purchase at some point. You know, we really want to make this better as it goes. That's the pitch. So overall, we have reached the point where we are ready to go into our argument for today, and that is the debate between what is the greatest Summer Olympic sport. Dan, what did you choose for your side today?
I chose the winning side, gymnastics. You know, I have to throw in a little jab early, you know, I have to. But no, I chose gymnastics.
All right, fine. And I appreciate you restraining till the actual opening arguments. We have to stick to the rules. We're nothing but animals if we don't live by our own rules. So I appreciate your restraint. For me, I chose, and some of you might be like, why did he choose that? Oh, you'll find out in a second. I chose water polo. Yeah, that's right, water polo. So water polo versus gymnastics. As per the rules, Dan, we're going to go to the coin toss to see who gets to go first. I'd like you to call it in the air, sir. Ready, go.
Well, tails never fails. I don't see it.
It didn't come through? Let's try it again, folks. Here we go.
I didn't get it. Oh, I saw heads.
See it?
Did it land on heads? I called tails.
Landed on heads.
All right.
Okay. So that means I get to go first again?
For you guys who don't know, we are using new software. I cannot mute myself. Normally, this is where I mute myself so that I don't just interject, but I'm going to restrain myself, Jeff. This is going to be tough, but I will stay quiet.
I appreciate that, Dan. And we're working on ways to be able to figure out how we can contribute to the conversation passively when the other person is talking. We've thought about using whiteboards, things like that. We'll see. We'll get creative as we find. Oh, did you you brought a pad and paper, didn't you? Oh, no. Folks, maybe you should tune into the podcast for this episode. If you're watching this video now, just turn it off. Just go to the audio version. That way you don't get unfairly influenced by whatever Dan's going to write on this notepad.
Listen, all right. You should have came prepared.
Man, I'm going to be ready next week. I'm going to be ready.
All right.
All right. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you why the greatest Summer Olympic sport is none other than water polo. Let's jump into it. When I think of the many Olympic sports that we watch every 4 years, and I need to start off with this, I have respect for every athlete out there. They have to dedicate their entire lives to training for just like one moment, and their career windows are really short. It's usually less than a decade long. So before we even start, I want to give every Olympic athlete, past, present, and future, my full respect. What you do is completely dedicating your life to your craft. So not knocking what you play for a sport. I'm just simply throwing out what I think the best sport is. So we're talking about the greatest Summer Olympic sport. And when I think of greatest, I think of the sport that, number one, depends on the Olympics for its existence, because we're not talking about the greatest sport. We're talking about the greatest Olympic sport. So therefore, it has to be tied in with the Olympics. And so that's A. And then B, I think the greatest Olympic sports means that it is the most demanding sport that players have to play in the Olympics. We're giving out medals here, ladies and gentlemen, and that means who is doing the best physically. This isn't the mental Olympics. This is the physical Olympics. So that means that the best short sport should be the one that's most physically demanding. So, Dan, that's going to go into my argument for today. I'm going to give you two reasons why water polo is the most important, greatest, best Summer Olympic sport out there. Reason number one, water polo is the toughest sport to play in the Summer Olympics. Don't believe me? Hear me out. Think about the physical endurance that you have to have just to play water polo. Let me give you some details about what they have to go through when they're playing. They have to jump in a pool. There's 20 feet of water in that pool. This is not some kiddie pool where your feet are touching the ground. You're sitting in 20 feet of water, and you get no breaks during the game. You have to keep your body above the water line the whole time during the game, and you're swimming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, trying to get in position. And when you're not swimming, you're treading water. And it's not like the treading water that your kid does in the swimming lessons. No, no. This is a maneuver that they call the egg beater. And that's just where you're using your legs back and forth because you have to have those hands free in order to catch the ball. So that's what they have to do just passively in order to be able to succeed at this sport. On top of that, what's going on with the legs is just half of what is demanding for them. They also have to catch a wet ball that's flying through the air. And while they're trying to catch a wet ball, they have to like launch themselves up sometimes to be able to grab the ball. And again, that's all from the leg power. Very, very impressive. And on top of that as well, while you're jumping up and getting that ball and trying to keep your hands free to grab it, you're in close quarters with all the other guys that are in the pool playing this game. And they have legs the size of telephone poles, which means that water is constantly being kicked around and you're getting kicked in the shins and the thighs and possibly other areas. And you have to keep your composure the whole time while water is splashing on your face. Can you imagine, Dan, that toll for the entire game? Does that sound like dribbling a ball up a court, running around a track, or waving a ribbon around for 2 minutes? No. Water polo is like if you combined lacrosse, ice hockey, and being interrogated by the KGB all into one. That is why water polo is the greatest sport. But don't take my word for it. Oh, no, no. Listen to some of these quotes, folks. An Olympic official told ESPN that this is what it's like for him to officiate games. He said, quote, "We have to make sure players' nails are filed down. Scratching with fingers and toes is one of the most common dirty techniques, but players still leave the pool covered in bruises, scratches, welts, and sometimes swimsuits are even in tatters." End quote. In addition, my good sir, in 2016, the Bleacher Report ran a report asking for what the world's toughest sport was, and guess what came up number one? Water polo. So it's not just me. The fans have spoken. And for my final quote, just to show you that I'm not alone in believing this, Vanessa Martinez, who's a journalist from the esteemed outlet, the Irish Times, she said, quote, "With water polo, there's no downtime. Every time you perform, it's at your maximum effort," end quote. And Dan, I just want to leave you with one last thought. Water polo, and this is my final reason, is the greatest sport because it needs the Olympics in order to survive. My mom loves watching gymnastics whenever it comes on. Your mom probably does too. It could be, the Olympics that's on, but you can also watch gymnastics if it's a regional competition on like ESPN, the Ocho, or maybe it's like a college competition on ABC. It doesn't matter. It can exist on its own and people like it. That's not the case for water polo. Water polo needs the Olympics, 100%. The only other big event for water polo is they have like a national championship once every 3 to 4 years. And that's it. It's not even really televised, especially in the States. It's only televised in Eastern Europe. So water polo needs the Olympics, and the Olympics need water polo because when it comes on, it's one of the most watched sports in the Summer Olympics. People love it. So, Dan, that's why water polo is the greatest Summer Olympic sport. I turn it over to you, sir.
The Irish Times, that was a great source. That was a great source.
Yeah, I really dug deep for that one.
Well,
hard-hitting reporting.
Well, folks, there's some claims that my colleague here said that just is false. He said it's the most physically demanding sport. That is false. And he said it, the fans spoke, which is also false. And I just had to start off by saying that so you guys can have that in your mind as I go through my debates. See, people who are fans of sports, even played at some sort of level, high school or college, legitimately believe at times that they can compete at the highest level. Whether you're playing backyard football, you think you're an NFL player, or in your driveway playing basketball, or Sunday soccer, or Sunday beer league softball, it doesn't matter. For some reason, it's in our minds that we could legitimately play competitively. One thing is for sure, none of us can pretend to be a competitive gymnast. I mean, These are real life superheroes flying through the air, running at incredible speeds, doing back handsprings and somersaults and making it look like it's easy. Gymnasts give viewers everything we could want from an athletic competition, from their athletic ability to their competition to background stories to amazing highlights. Now, if you guys have heard anything of our debates, we know that Daniel likes to stick to statistics. I'm a numbers guy. We know this. And we have scientific fact to prove that gymnasts is by far the most difficult mentally, physically, and physical sport on the planet. Now, why, you may ask? Well, here are the factors. Balance. No sport requires as much balance as gymnastics. Rotation. Spatial awareness. These gymnasts have to be able to carry 9 times of their body weight. Proprioception and kinetic awareness. Skill and routine timing to a 6,000th of a second. Short distance running sprints from 16 to 20 miles per hour. Tumbling and vaulting 13 to 16 feet in the air. 360 to 1080 degrees rotation of twisting in less than 1 second. Tell me, is there any sport that requires that physical demand? See, that's just the science behind the physical demands of gymnastics. There are other factors as well. It requires a grueling physical training from a very young age. An average gymnast, we're not talking about the top dogs here. An average gymnast needs to spend 15 to 40 hours with at least 1 hour after practice in conditioning and strength training. They have to get past mental blocks and fears, because guess what? Being upside down is not a normal position. So they have to get over the fear of being upside down. Another thing, you don't just compete against other teams. You compete against some of your best friends. See, even though you're on a team, you get scored individually. So that means that teammate you have, you're still trying to beat them because you want to go to the Olympics. You want the gold. All right? Endurance and literally super strength. Although they make it look easy, it is not easy to do what they do. Just like the science says, 9 times their body weight. They fall a lot. It's a sport of trial and error. So you get back up and you do it again. It doesn't matter how scary that fall is. It doesn't matter how hard you fall. You get up and do it again. It can cause injuries. Most gymnasts in their life had at least one grueling injury, and they have to get over that mental block of that injury. In gymnastics, you get one shot, one landing, one routine, and it requires perfection. If you do it sloppy, if you have a bad day, you're just not moving on. Gymnastics, on top of being the hardest sport in the world and needing superhuman abilities, it is also one of the most mentally demanding. Again, we want the statistics, right? We want the numbers. Viewers voted gymnastics as the most popular sport that's watched in the Olympics, followed by swimming, track and field, and water sports. And guess what? Those water sports did not include water polo. By water sports, I mean rafting. I mean other water sports. But if we want to include water polo in those water sports, fine. We will include water polo. We will include it. But guess what? That is number 4. That is not even 3 or second. That's a bronze medal if we're listing them, okay? That's a bronze medal. Gymnastics is the most popular sought out. We see in 2016 during the Summer Olympics, we see a rating spike when gymnastics was on. So we want to say the people have spoken. You're right. The people have spoken. Gymnastics is the most popular, and one could argue even the most mentally demanding. That is my argument. Remember, people, statistics and numbers matter. I give it to you, Jeff.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So you've heard our opening arguments for water polo and gymnastics. Which one deserves to be the greatest Summer Olympic sport? We'll come back for our second portion, which is going to be the counter arguments section of the show, where we're going to get the chance to poke holes in each other's arguments. But first, we're going to take a break for one of our commercial sponsors. Stick with us. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for sticking with us. We are back. Now is the time where we go to the portion of the show where we have our counter arguments prepared for you. You've heard the opening arguments from Dan and I as to which of our choices is the greatest Summer Olympic sport. Now's the chance for you to hear some of the things we have to say to the other person's argument. So, Dan, since I won the toss on this one, that means you get the final word, which can be dangerous towards my overall chances of winning, but the rules are the rules. So let me go ahead and start off with some counterpoints to what you mentioned. Dan, the first counterpoint I have about what you had mentioned about gymnastics, you said that it's a physically demanding sport. I don't think anybody's taking that away, but look, my 5-year-old, he just started gymnastics and he loves it. It's so cute. You get to see him doing the little tumbles and the balance beam drills, and that's great, man. I think it's great. And it takes a lot of skill to be able to build up to become an Olympian. But look, if my son falls while he's on the rings or the balance beam, he has a nice cushy mat to break his fall, right? If you were playing water polo, if he messes up, he drowns. That's the high stakes of water polo compared to gymnastics, and that's why it deserves more respect. First point. Second point I want to bring up to you, sir. You said none of us can be a competitive gymnast in the same way that these Olympians are. And you may be right to an extent, but water polo athletes could be. Because you said the skills that gymnasts need to succeed, things like balance, rotation, spatial awareness. Look into my eyes, this eye specifically right here, and tell me that water polo athletes don't rely on those same skills to succeed. And, sir, I bring it back to my previous point. The stakes are much higher because if you lose your balance in gymnastics, you may hurt yourself. And I'm not saying gymnasts haven't. If you lose your rotation, you may suffer the consequences of that. But in water polo, if those things happen, your life's in danger. So there's no room for error. Thus, the reason why water polo players are tougher and more athletic than gymnasts. My third and final point that I want to bring up to you, you said that, again, gymnasts are some of the most gifted athletes in the world. Yes, but I just have a question to ask you, Dan. Do you really want to name the sport that's the greatest in Summer Olympics gymnastics, when gymnastics, we know, has a detrimental effect on the growth and development of kids that started at a young age, especially competitively? It sounds to me like you're advocating for child abuse. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but, I'm just saying we might have to consider that if we were to name gymnastics the greatest Summer Olympic sport, because that would be a travesty in my mind. Those kids deserve better. And with that, I leave my counter arguments to the audience to decide. Daniel?
Well, first, your final point is now trying to stain the sport of gymnastics by trying to incorporate a moral argument with the argument that should be, is it the greatest sport? Not, is it the most morally safe sport or anything like that? Not to mention, we have no scientific proof that these trainings are stunting kids' growth. You, sir, are stuck in the 90s. Now, if you want to have other moral arguments, we could. But you are stuck in the 90s with bad science when it comes to anatomy. But so let's just say that your final point has nothing to do with the greatest sport. It has to do with you're trying to win a moral point with the audience. So I would like the audience to know that that should be stricken from the record because that has nothing to do with the sport. Now, Jeff said that his 5-year-old is in gymnastics. It would take that man, little man, a good 15 years of continuing gymnastics, 15 to 40 hours a week, to be able to possibly qualify into the Olympics. So, who cares if you're 5 years in gymnastics? My kid is taking swim lessons. Does that have to do with water, like the professional water polo player? No. The fact of the matter is, just because your 5-year-old is doing it doesn't mean he's good enough for the gymnastics. In fact, he could spend the 15 to 40 hours for the next 15 years and still not be good enough for the Olympics. That shows the competitive drive that gymnasts have and their ability. He could be not even a top 100 gymnast in the world, spending the rest of his life in gymnastics. Now, you talked about injuries, right? If a water polo player started drowning, are you telling me that there's not a lifeguard, medic, or another water polo player that can save him? Is he just in the pool by himself, that he's going to drown by himself? While someone doing gymnastics can break their neck, and guess what? If you broke your neck, you just broke your neck. There's no one coming to save you. You could just die. So your fear of drowning is very minimal with the amount of people who are talented enough to swim and get you. So I've never even heard of a water polo drowning to death in the Olympics. You have heard of major tears of ligaments. You have heard of major broken bones in the Olympics from gymnasts. So as far as which one is more dangerous, come on, man. I've never heard of a water polo player drowning. I've never even heard of it, period. You know why? Water polo is not great. No offense to water polo players out there, but it's not great. So we don't hear about it. And then you tried using my point about balance and all this stuff. And you made the point as if skills could transfer over. A good water polo player is literally only good at water polo. If you're trying to say just skills-wise, it's like saying just because I have horizontal skills in baseball, I can now play volleyball. That doesn't make sense. But if you look at the gymnast, there's a very good chance that a gymnast can probably perform in track and field. Am I wrong? They may not be amazing, but guess what? Those skills, the quick of the feet, the balance, all that can transfer over to multiple different sporting events. All right, and then you're trying to make the point that that water polo relies on the Olympics. The fact that it has to rely on the Olympics to survive means that it is not the greatest Olympic sport. The greatest Olympic sports are those that people want to see, the people want to perform. We're talking about Olympics come from the Greeks, right? These big physical feats, and there is no greater physical feat than gymnastics. Listen, the numbers, the statistics, it doesn't lie. Science doesn't lie, right? No one's drowning in water polo. No one is tuning in at 7 p.m. to watch the gold medal water polo match. No one's doing it. But people are going to watch Simone Biles to see what she's going to do, right? People are going to do this. So, my people, my listeners, don't cave into the poor moral argument that Jeff tried to punch in to try to sway you. It's just about the greatest Olympic sport. That's it. And without question, it's gymnastics. And with that, I close my counterpoint, and I will YouTube a water polo match to see if I can get through the whole thing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in the show, we leave the decision to you in your capable hands because we trust you to filter through the arguments that we've made and make the best decision. So, overall, how can you do that? Well, the best way to be able to vote is we share the link to be able to cast your choice on social media. So please take a moment, if you haven't already, follow us on either Facebook or Instagram. That's where we are. We've decided to not go to the other social channels yet, but we're on Facebook and Instagram. If you just search for GOAT Sports Pod, that is our handle. Follow us, and you will get the link in order to be able to go ahead and vote, which we need you for, to be able to settle this latest argument, this latest debate. So we would appreciate your input. Also, you can find us on YouTube. If you're listening to the show and you'd like to watch it, you can follow us on YouTube. We'll include a link in the show notes so you can follow our channel. It's very long right now because we're not at 1,000 followers just yet, so we don't have the branded one like we do on social media. But click follow us on YouTube so you get all the updates there. And then by email, as Dan mentioned at the top of the show, you can email us at, I forgot the email, Dan. It was Hotmail something. Was it goatpodcast@hotmail.com?
I believe so.
Oh, no. Just look in the
How
show
do you
notes.
not- let's listen, everyone. I want you guys to know that it was Jeff who made this email, but I will insert it. It's Goat Sports. Just kidding. You're right. Goatpodcast@hotmail.com.
And I'm proud that I created it, Dan. You can't shame me for creating that. I won't let you.
I won't. I have more shameful emails, as you guys heard the last episode. So we'll roll with Hotmail.
So that's it, folks. Follow us, please. It's really important. And we also want to take a moment before we end the show to talk about what we're doing. So you can follow us in other ways, too. So, Dan, what have you got going on outside of the GOAT that people can connect with you about?
Besides Googling and watching some water polo to see if I can get through a match. No. In all seriousness, me and my wife, we are in charge of a fitness business called Endurance Cross Training Fitness. You can follow us on Instagram or Facebook. We now have a TikTok as well with the same handle. We have merchandise. We have virtual training. If you're in Maryland, Frederick, DMV area, we do in-person training as well. That's what we do. Me and my wife were very into the fitness lifestyle, being fit, trying to be as good as possible as you can be to live as long as possible and as healthy as possible. So that is what I got going on. How about you, Jeff?
Very good, Dan. Yeah. Overall, I really like podcasts. As you can see from this, I've got several going on. I do some through my job. If you're in marketing and you want to learn how to be able to grow your business or be able to find better ways to connect with your audience through my job, we do have a podcast called Growth Marketing for Martians. You can check that out. We come out with a new episode every month, and you can just pick up some tips on how to be able to just grow your brand. We have special guests on. We have experts in different sub-industry areas that join us. So check that out, Growth Marketing for Martians. It's on every podcast platform. Go ahead and take a look at that. And then, as I mentioned before, I have a personal podcast, the baseball one, about the history of baseball in America called Rounders. So you can type into any podcast app, Rounders as well, and check out some stories from baseball's history. I try and pick the interesting ones so you can really dive into what baseball has been like and how it's contributed to our country over the years. So that's what I'm doing, Dan. We keep pretty busy, don't we?
Yeah, man. Got things going all the time. So this is just a great opportunity to just talk about what we love and argue that we've been doing for decades now.
Folks, we were doing it anyways, so we might as well just film it. So here we are. We hope you're enjoying it. Give us feedback when you follow us on social. Send us a message, leave us a comment, vote. All those things that matters a lot to us. We read everyone. We want to respond to everyone. It's about the connecting with you too. So overall, thank you for making us a part of your day. We're very grateful for that, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right.